Welcome back, everyone. As you can recall, last time we did a special episode talking about all things cannabis and law, and we're back again. I have with me Meital of 420 Attorneys, and we're here to give you guys the knowledge. All right, Meital, what do midterm elections mean for cannabis?
It's my understanding that in the midterm elections, there's a lot of candidates that are trying to forward cannabis measures. The American public overwhelmingly supports cannabis legalization.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to see some candidates moving that forward as part of their platform. Chuck Schumer has been trying to introduce descheduling at the federal level. We'll see how much of that really comes to fruition. You know, whenever it comes to federal policy, I always feel a bit like, let's not get too excited.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. What do you think's going to happen?
I think that cannabis will not be legalized until they can figure out how to profit. So what's happening with the states legalizing is you're getting less bodies for mass incarceration. And I think that that's affecting profit. So until they can figure out how to properly fill that void, I don't see federal legalization helping or coming. And I don't really support federal legalization anymore. As we're seeing these states legalize, they're raising the threshold for mold because they don't know how to grow cannabis without mold. They basically will change the starting line so that they can win until they figure it out. And I just don't think that it's fair. There's so many people in this industry who are skilled and qualified to get it right the first time. And because unfortunately they don't fit the corporate mold, they're iced out.
You know, what's interesting about the midterms is there's a few Democratic candidates that are forwarding the cannabis legalization at the federal level, whatever that looks like. The Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman talks about, cannabis being central to his platform. Chuck Schumer is talking about descheduling.
Yeah.
We know that the MORE Act and the Safe Banking Bill, we keep hearing these same things come up again and again.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that federal legalization is going to be really, really difficult for the smaller operators, the smaller industry, the social equity community. On the other hand, I, feel like interstate commerce would be so exciting, at least from California, because we produce so much cannabis and so many cannabis producers in California are struggling right now.
Yeah.
That providing an outlet for them to another state for the best weed in the country would be phenomenal. And so I would love to see like a sort of like you can do cannabis transactions with another legal state. That would be exciting. Any policy that we enact is going to have negative ramifications, and not having a policy has negative ramifications.
Yeah.
But I feel like from a small business perspective, just also comparing to the CBD and hemp market, how businesses have been able to expand because it is national.
Yeah.
Interstate commerce would be, really a hot topic and would be great. At least I know, like in talking to my clients, they would love that opportunity.
Yeah. Note to Chuck Schumer, give us interstate commerce, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dear Chuck.
Dear Chuck.
There's a few states that are looking to legalize
in
November. So I think there's Arkansas, North Dakota, and then something really interesting in Minnesota happened where they accidentally legalized weed. Did you read about that?
That happened in 2020, correct? Or
no, it just happened like a few months ago.
Okay, no, I didn't hear about that.
So the lawmakers didn't understand the ramifications of the bill.
Okay.
And they inadvertently legalized like low amounts of THC in drinks and in edibles in Minnesota. So like the minute that happened, all edibles were like flying off the shelf. Like it was a madhouse in Minnesota. And lawmakers came out afterwards and were like, I had no idea that I was actually legalizing.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nerve-wracking, knowing that lawmakers are passing laws that they have no idea that they're passing. It kind of reminds me of Oklahoma, where the people kind of created the initiative and got this really like really, really lax set of rules for a very conservative state. And the state didn't think that it was going to pass. And then when it did, they were kind of scrambling. How did, the state that legalized alcohol last get the most liberal set of cannabis laws in the country? But it was pretty
Yeah.
funny. They didn't believe that they could do it, and they did it.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma was like on fire for a hot
Hmm.
minute as
Yeah.
far as like just activity and commerce. And I think it's starting to cool down a little bit now,
Yeah,
but
for
it
sure.
was definitely like a hotbed,
The
crazy
wild, wild
place.
west.
It really, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny because each place that starts to legalize sort of is the wild, wild west.
Yes.
Um, we'll see what happens in New York.
Yeah, New York.
Are you following New York?
I'm following New York. I'm just praying that they get it right. Please be the model for all of us, because California, I think, dropped it the hardest. I mean, the worst. Prop 64 is just so bad. It is so bad.
I think New York's going to do worse.
Really?
Mm-hmm. We have a bet in one of my groups as to the first lawsuit against New York.
Okay.
Like when that's going to happen, like there's an over under, because I think New York, like every state they come in, they're like, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to do it right. And then they get it all
They
wrong.
bungle it.
Yeah.
New York, I'm praying for you.
Yeah. Well, this
Okay.
was an interesting question that came up. What happens if an active duty member tests positive for cannabis use?
Oh, that is a great question. Oh my gosh. The VA is not cannabis friendly. We know that.
No, you know what I found out though? They have this weird system where they can get medical,
Mm-hmm.
but not from their VA doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And they can talk to their VA provider about cannabis use, but they have to get their cannabis somewhere else.
Correct.
If they're not on active duty. If they are on active duty and they test positive, there's like a whole sort of host of issues, and it depends on what state they're in.
Yeah.
So if they're in a state where cannabis is legal, then the sort of punishment is less. But it can be severe if it's in a state where it's illegal. They can obviously be discharged from active duty.
That's amazing, because veterans, typically combat veterans, have PTSD. We know this. And the United States government actually did a study on cannabis and PTSD and found that cannabis is really great for people who suffer with it. Sometimes people with PTSD don't want to go to sleep, and cannabis is really great at knocking out those dreams. It's great for pain, sleep, irritability. We know all of this. So you would think the people that are coming home traumatized from war would be, I mean, as soon as they get off that plane, they should have eighths in little baggies, like waiting for them. Thank you for your service. Here you go. But unfortunately, they could lose their benefits altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's changed so much from when I first started practicing. It was really like the no, like bad thing to say. And now, I mean, it's getting better. I'm actually kind of surprised at the progress there.
Yeah.
Because getting medical recommendation from any sort of like 420 doctor online or whatever is so easy in most places.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's legal. So it'll be interesting to see like how that develops, but I think it's a good question, and you're right. Probably, there are studies that show that it helps.
It's
with
a federal
PTSD.
government study with federal government cannabis by Dr. Sue Sisley. They know. And then polypharmacide. So many veterans are dying of polypharmacide, not on purpose, but when you have too much chemicals that are being mixed, and you can just end up dying. And so many veterans die of polypharmacide.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So this plant, I mean, although it may feel like you're going to die when you consume heavy amounts, like a heavy edible, you don't. And that's beautiful.
Oh, this is an interesting one about employment. Do you ever get those questions? Like, can I be fired for smoking?
Yes, absolutely.
It's interesting to watch it develop throughout the states because, it used to be that absolutely you can get fired everywhere for testing positive pre-employment, during employment, off duty, on duty.
Yeah.
I had an interesting case once many years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, where the gentleman was terminated for testing positive for cannabis, and then the employment board made a decision to deny his unemployment
Wow.
benefits. And so we fought with the employment board, and we ultimately got him his benefits. And it was
Yeah.
such an interesting exercise learning how, basically employers, at least in California, can make whatever decisions they want as long as they're communicated to the employees
Yeah.
when it comes to cannabis. And so that was sort of our kind of warning tale for everybody, which was like, you can get fired for smoking. Doesn't matter if it's on the job, if it's off the job.
Yeah.
They can, even screen you before the position. And, there are sort of like competing interests there, like in some states, for example, you can't be discriminated against for smoking unless you operate like certain kind of heavy machinery,
Yeah.
those kinds of jobs where they need you sober.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I do know that anybody having to take a drug test, I feel, is such an outdated idea. And the whole reason why we have drug tests is because of McCarthyism. It's just to test your loyalty. I mean, what does somebody who consumes cannabis on a Friday have anything to do with a Monday morning? The answer is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more so a loyalty test. And I'll let the audience guess which administration, but there is an administration that actually hired their friend who created these new drug tests. So he also made a lot of money in the process of these drug tests for this administration that required loyalty tests.
Oh.
Do you know which?
Is it Nixon?
Almost.
Who's it?
Reagan.
Oh, Reagan? Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think, in other countries and other places, do they do drug tests? It feels a little extreme.
I mean, if they do, it came from us. And again, it's just a loyalty test. Like, we don't know if you're smoking weed, but we can test you and we can find out, and then we can take away your government job in the process.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But like smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol, I mean, it's just so interesting.
Well, they can profit off of it. So now they don't care because now they can make money off of you. But, how dare you go and become a better person and free your mind and get better sleep and overall better health. And I don't make money off of that. That is not the American way. It's not the American way. We make you sick and then we sell you the cure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
37 states. In Colorado's employers are statutorily prohibited from interfering with employees' lawful off-duty conduct. But however, when defining lawful, the state defers to federal law. And since cannabis is still federally illegal, off-duty cannabis use is not protected in Colorado. The current trend is to grant employment protections for both. Testing policies, mailing weed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the interplay of like federal law and state law and cannabis, it just like complicates the whole employment scenario. I mean, on the one hand, do business owners and businesses need to sort of be able to check their employees on any drug use? Mm-hmm. Like,
I don't think so. I think obviously, if something happens on the job, they're going to see if you're drunk or if you're intoxicated, which they should. But again, I think, as many responsible adults that use drugs, it's just kind of time to mind your business. People are going to do it regardless if you're testing or not. People are going to do whatever they want to do on their own time. You don't own us. You own us for 40 hours a week. Got it. But after that, leave us alone.
Okay, so your position is if they do something on the job, then you can test them.
Potentially. So if somebody's causing an accident while they're intoxicated, then yeah, that's an issue because you're theoretically not supposed to be coming to work intoxicated, and that's a risk. But I don't think that there's any reason for you to be testing somebody for drugs other than being nosy. And I think we're just so, because that's how we've always done, we've got to do it that way. But we need to like kind of check like what was the reason that we started it. And when you look at the reason, then we know, oh, it was problematic to begin with. We need to get rid of it.
What about athletes?
Athletes, I think that that's another thing that needs to be like mindful. Like cannabis and alcohol and whatever drugs that athletes want to use is one thing, but performance enhancing drugs, that's another thing. So I don't think that they should be testing for quote unquote recreational drugs or plants. But yeah, if you're using performance enhancing drugs, that's a little different.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
agree with you on that.
USPS, is that the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. True or false? The United States Postal Service is the biggest drug dealer in the nation.
Oh my God, is it true?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, so USPS or UPS and FedEx, like you can't really, they're going to like be able to scan your packages. The United States Postal Service mails so much mail that they literally cannot do it. And so if you're going to send anything, it's USPS.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay, well, to clarify, it is illegal to mail with USPS.
Yes, it's illegal.
And I have had several clients who have caught a case.
Okay.
Mailing it.
Okay. Which service?
Oh, Postal Service.
Really? USPS?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I'm talking about like mailing pounds.
Okay, yeah. That's going
to Arkansas or to Mississippi. I'm not talking about like sending your friend like a vape.
Okay.
You know?
Got it.
I'm talking about like a box of 4 pounds of weed dropped off at the post office with a fake. So when you go to the post office, and you drop off a package, the post office initially scans, and I learned this from like the FBI report.
Okay.
They scan the addressee and the sender. Okay. And they check databases to make sure that they line up with like known
people
names.
Oh my god.
So that happens, right? Okay. The fact that many people just kind of like, you know, don't get in trouble for it is one thing for sure, 100%. But I have had a lot of clients who have caught a case on it.
Okay. I do know somebody that got a package seized, and that was like when you tracked it, it said seized. But they used fake names.
Yeah.
So
basically the person that receives the package is potentially liable as well. So they have to, like, we get so many case calls that's like, hey, I got a call from the post office. Should I not go claim the package? And it's like, you should probably just chill on that.
Yeah. I was told that they'll have a police officer deliver an USPS outfit and make you sign for it. And then as soon as you sign for it, like, you're arrested.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. But I think you're right. People do just mail, right?
Yeah. So maybe let's not mail pounds. Yeah. But like if you're sending edibles to your grandma who has arthritis, totally fine.
Yeah. But this is my other thing about interstate commerce. Like, you want to be able to put something in the mail without.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, once they legalize being able to mail it, they're going to tax it. You're sending cannabis? Okay, well, there's an extra tax for that.
Oh, a cannabis postage tax.
Yeah. But can I say I sent a box of goodies to a friend who has MS and like needs it for quality of life. And the driver dropped off the box with only 2 items left in the box. So like, and there, I can't report it. Like, how do you report that to the post office? Like, yeah, it was a vaporizer, edibles, concentrates, flour.
Oh, yeah. Then you're kind of dealing,
Yeah. So I think these delivery drivers, like coming from California, it's a box of this size. Yeah. And I didn't tape it all the way at the bottom, so I'm sure they could see like little labels. Yeah. Delivered it to her with 2 items left. I was so sad. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a bummer.
Yeah. Self-incriminating, right?
I was like, but they were in California, right? So yes,
they were in California. Yes, they were in California.
The answer is yes.
They were in a county that is prohibited in California.
Okay. Or she just can't leave her house.
Yeah, that's right.
Like making it up for you on the fly. Another thing that's kind of like weird about mailing is that if it's hemp, you can mail it because it's federally legal. Okay. If it's Delta 8 and you're talking about commercial distribution, in some states where it's legal, you can send the Delta 8. Okay. But there's like this extra kind of new restriction on mailing vapes. Okay. So any business that's mailing like the hardware of vapes has to comply with this whole new additional set of regulations.
I did see a few brands dealing with that, like Puffco, for example. They sell vaporizers for concentrates. And I know that they weren't shipping because of the new precedent that has been set.
Yeah, and they've called it a nicotine rule, but it really affects any kind of vaporizer.
Yeah, except pharmaceutical vaporizers, aka the machine that I used with asthma. That's fine,
right? And do you know that California just passed a law that basically said you cannot. It was part of the amended regulations, and we like opposed this as part of this trade association that I'm a part of. But you can't make the equivalence of an asthma inhaler for cannabis.
Okay.
You can't like make that product, which just seems
Really?
weird to me. Seems like the asthma inhaler company must be like saying,
Oh,
like,
well, that's because they know that cannabis is a bronchodilator, a very effective bronchodilator. And that's what I don't use asthma medicines anymore. I don't need to. And I didn't ever realize that once I started consuming cannabis, I didn't need my asthma inhalers. But pinene is what's in a lot of pharmaceutical drugs for asthma. They're very aware. And that
mm,
could be why they're
yeah,
creating laws to kind of protect their business.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was crazy. Wait, so you have asthma, and do you use a vape?
No,
You just
vaporizers really exacerbate my asthma. And I
yeah.
know there's like vaporizers are healthier, they're safer.
I
And
don't
as
agree.
somebody with asthma, I feel like I have swimmer's lungs sometimes, whether it's with the concentrate or with flour, because you have to keep those things so clean. And after like 2 or 3 uses, they're pretty dirty. So I've found if I consume my cannabis with a hemp wrap and I'm consuming 100% cannabis, I'm fine.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.